everyone. This presentation is being presented over the Kmart scandal in 2002 and the ethical errors that were made by the chief executives. Here's a quick overview of the topics that will be discussed in today's presentation. First, I will give you some brief information on where and when Kmart began. That will lead me to talk about the actual case facts. Then I will go into the fines and penalties from the SEC leading to what happened to Kmart after the scandal. And lastly, I will wrap up the presentation and alternative options that could have been done to have led Kmart away from a scandal. So, let's begin. More than 100 years ago, Sebastian Spring Courage opened a store in downtown Detroit. This is said to have changed the entire landscape of retailing. The store that Sebastian built has evolved into an empire of more than 1,500 stores. The Kmart name has become a symbol for quality products at low prices. These low prices appealed to shoppers and allowed Sebastian to expand to 85 stores in 1912, with annual sales of more than $10 million. As time went on, prices may have changed, but the business philosophy stayed the same. Offer consumer products they need at prices they can afford, and they'll keep coming back. Back to the basics for Kmart. In 1991, as part of a new plan, Kmart opened the first Kmart Supercenter in Medina, Ohio, offering a full-service grocery along with general merchandise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Coming into the 90s, Kmart's profitability and sales peaked in 1992 and continuously declined due to competition with Walmart, Target, and internet shopping. In 1994, Kmart closed 110 stores while still remaining a high dividend. If you take a look at the pie chart to the bottom right-hand corner, according to Forbes, the market became dominant by Walmart starting in 2000. Kmart had a 30% share of the market, dead even with Walmart in 1990, but only 17% of the market compared to Walmart's 55% in 2000. Charles Conway was hired in 2000 as the chief executive officer to bring Kmart back into the market competition by increasing sales and market shares. In this graph, Walmart is clearly shown as one of the biggest public corporations in terms of revenue, operating numerous outlets not just in the United States, but all over the world. Walmart shows a steady increase of an average of 20 million over a course of 5 years in 2003 to 2007. Target holds an average of 50 million, while Kmart decreases by an average of 2.4 million each year. Some differences between the two has something to do with inventory, and this time it's Walmart that edges past Kmart. While Walmart maintains stock inventory of not less than 90% of the time, Kmart seems to fully stock only 86% of the time. When comparing Walmart with Kmart, availability of stock, Walmart beats Kmart. Affordability, Walmart is less expensive. Accessibility and shipping charges, Walmart has more stores. But since both stores are available online, anyone can conveniently shop throughout their online portal. The Kmart company reported an increase in the profit margins by reducing the cost of goods sold for 4 vendors. The vendors were Pepsi-Cola, Kodak, Coca-Cola, and the Frito-Lay division. Major retail companies contract out space for big-name vendors. For an example, Coca-Cola investors, presidents, and top executives present a contract to the retail company, such as Walmart, for an allotted shelf space to sell their products. Walmart's top executives review the cost and either agree on the proposed amount of, or negotiate to settle on a different price. This price allows vendors to keep the shelf full for the customers, and if the contract is broken, then removal of the project comes from the retail company until a new contract is agreed. In 2001, Kmart reported they made $219 million, which breaks down to 48 cents a share. Of course, this made them look good, even if it was 1 penny ahead of Wall Street's expectations. Although Kmart became dependent on the vendor's allowance to carry the company from one fiscal year to another, by purposely reporting allowances from these vendors in the wrong time period to reduce the cost of goods sold. In uncovering the truth, the investigation was spurred by an anonymous letter, supposedly from a Kmart employee, written to the Securities and Exchange Commission exposing the wrongful behavior of CEO Charles Conway. Well, eventually their scheme caught up with them and Kmart filed bankruptcy on January 22, 2002. At this time, this was known as the largest retail bankruptcy ever recorded. As we move along to fines and penalties, the SEC charges were made against 3 executives and 5 representatives of the companies that supplied Kmart with brand name products. The major players in this scandal turned out to be the buyers, who were looking for ways to improve revenue. The former Kmart execs that were included in the suit were John P. Orr, Michael Frank, and Albert Aboud. None of these execs ever admitted to doing anything wrong. Frank and Orr were fined in 2001, and Aboud left the company on his own in 2001 as well. Conway ended up accepting full blame for the financial disaster and eventually agreed to pay the $5.5 million settlement in 2010. Due to its failed strategy, Kmart lost a whopping $2.4 billion during 2001, and it was able to come out of bankruptcy in May 2003 as Kmart Holdings Corporation after securing financing for more than $2 billion. Once downsized, Kmart was able to become a profitable retailer once again, and late in 2004 it merged with Sears Roebuck to become Sears Holdings. Penalties received by the SEC. During bankruptcy's investigation, it became apparent that there had been some accounting fraud that had been taking place in order to inflate revenue figures by $42.3 million for the second quarter of 2001. This led to identifying similar imbalances exceeding $24 million in the third and fourth quarters also. Kmart was charged by fraudulent regulators with prematurely booking promotional allowances for suppliers. After Kmart's scandal came out, who was affected? Reportedly, the bankruptcy caused job loss for approximately 67,000 people, and Kmart was forced to sell off or close 600 stores. The allegations that were brought forth by the SEC for representatives of Kodak, Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and Coke? Well, eventually, this lawsuit was dismissed from court after it was determined that the evidence was not strong enough to convict any individual of wrongdoing. And of course, customers were just as surprised and disappointed. Now here are a few alternative decisions that should have been made due to moral or ethical issues. There was supposedly an anonymous letter that was sent out to the proper authorities. It is said to be from Kmart employees, as I mentioned before. That was a form of whistleblowing. Most ethicalists agree whistleblowing is an ethical action. According to the standard theory of Michael Davis, whistleblowing is morally required when it is required at all. People have a moral obligation to prevent serious harm to others if they can do so with little cost to themselves. Second, giving voice to value. Expressing one's values in a way that positively influence others by finding the levers to effectively voice and enact one's values. Realizing between what is right and wrong. Not one of these men who were involved, not one had a moral ethical thought and say to themselves or spoke out loud saying, "This is wrong." Your paycheck and job position, is that important to you? To bet against going to jail or being fined more than what you make? Communication. Finding ways to communicate their values, making people understand and listen. Thirdly, reorganization. by creating claims, such as administrative, priority claims, or compensation. Better store policies, such as meet customers' needs and keep expenses down. Or new customer relationship management, by listening to the customers better and have the products and customers want to buy. Now, here is a quick summary of the main points that were covered in this presentation. Kmart went bankrupt in January 22, 2002. They overstated the financial reports to the investors. Conaway took full blame and was fined, along with being banned from working in any other public company. And lastly, and most importantly, GAAP rules should always be followed.